Good evening. Welcome to the December 19th, 2024 Northampton City Council meeting. I'm Alex Jarrett, as City Council President. I'll be presiding this evening, and Vice President Rachel Maori is joining us remotely. This meeting and all participating in person and on Zoom will be audio and video recorded, and the meeting can also be watched on Comcast Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube channel. I now call the City Council to order. Would you take the roll, please?
Sure. Councillor Dobbs.
Here.
Councillor Elkins.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Clemmer.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Perry. Yeah, okay. And he wasn't.
There he is.
I'm a co-host.
Maybe say it again, Laura, he's there.
Councillor Perry, are you present?
Here.
Okay. And Councillor Rothenberg. I hadn't seen her come in. And she has come in. I wouldn't have made her a co-host yet, so does anyone see her present?
I don't see her.
Okay, so hopefully she'll be joining us. Council President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. First is an announcement of 3 public hearings. The announcement of a public hearing on the Northampton Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 2026 to 2030 will be Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. In accordance with Article 7, Section 7.5 of the Charter, the Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing Thursday, January 2nd at 6:30 p.m. in City Council Chambers here, 212 Main Street, Northampton. The City Council will consider the capital improvement program for fiscal year 26 to 30 and hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. And that's at 6:30. This next one, it says 6:30 as well. Is that supposed to be? It doesn't matter. We'll just do it. We'll do it right after the next one. So, okay, public hearing on 24.158 National Grid poll petition for Pleasant Street. This was going to be an actual public hearing tonight, but we had to reschedule it because the notifications weren't sent out in time. We will hold a public hearing here again on National Grid's petition to install one singly owned pole on Pleasant Street. And
I'm so sorry.
and then
So that actual hearing is January 2nd at 7:10 p.m.
oh, right, I'm sorry.
From this evening.
Yes, so right, Thursday. I see what you did. I'm sorry, I didn't. Yeah, Thursday, January 2nd at 7:10 p.m. will be that poll petition for Pleasant Street. Public hearing on 24.164 National Grid Verizon poll petition for Garfield Street will be Thursday, January 2nd at 7 p.m. And also here, and the petition is to install one jointly owned pole on Garfield Street, approximately 70 feet east of the center line of the intersection with Straw Avenue. And finally, an announcement of a public hearing on 24.169, the National Grid poll petition for Maple Street. That will be Thursday, January 2nd at 7:05 p.m. And it's on National Grid's petition to install one singly owned pole on the west side of Maple Street to support existing pole number 24. Also here in Council Chambers. Which brings us to public comment. If you wish to make a public comment, you can sign up on the sheet at the podium. And if you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature. The raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar. You click on React and then raise hand. And if you're having trouble raising your virtual hand, you can turn on your video and physically raise your hand. If you want to submit a written public comment, you can email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov. It will be sent to all councilors and will be part of the public record. So I'm going to alternate between people in the room and people on Zoom. And before you begin, please state your name and your city or town. We limit comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, I or another counselor will ask you to please finish your sentence. And we don't respond during public comment. It is your time to speak. And we ask that all Counselors and members of the public conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right, one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and with recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda, and all comments are to be directed to the council. We'll start with Sharon Deal. Welcome, Sharon. Your name and city or town, please. Is it a green light?
Green light, yeah.
Great.
My name is Sharon Deal, and I live in Northampton, Ward 5. I've lived in Northampton and Florence for 29 years, and I've been a special education teacher for 28 years. I'm in my 13th year with NPS. I'm here today to talk to you and all those city employees listening tonight to not choose health insurance options like the HMO, specifically Health New England. Even though the city pays 80% of Health New England HMO, I'm here to tell you that it's not worth it. You get about $3,000 in your pocket extra at the end of the year, but it's cost me my health, my mobility, my quality of life. HMOs lock you in, and once you're in, you can't go outside to get an option. In 2016, I had a bad MRI, and as a result of that, I petitioned to go to Boston and was denied the claim and ended up going to UMass Worcester, in which I was misdiagnosed, and then through a series of events, I finally got my scans read by somebody at a Boston facility, and I was diagnosed with a very rare form of blood cancer that caused a tumor in my femur. At that point, Health New England locked me in, and I took my chemotherapy and my radiation. I stayed in in-network oncology people. And then what ended up happening for me was there wasn't open enrollment, so I couldn't change. Finally, there was open enrollment, and I made a mistake. I should have changed, and that's on me. Fast forward 7 years ago, my femur died. I've been in an extreme amount of pain. I needed surgery. The two options were to go back to UMass Worcester that misdiagnosed me, or to go to Hartford Bone and Joint Center. I went to Hartford. Unfortunately, my doctor and my orthopedic doctor both wrote letters to Health New England. I was denied. Basically, the long and the short of it is...
So that's time. If you could just finish your sentence.
Yep. I urge all employees to choose a PPO that helps you because you can get the care you need. I'm currently disabled.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Zoom and Grow Food Northampton. Let me see if I can figure out how to unmute. All right, welcome.
Hello, City Council. I'm Elisa Klein. I live in Leeds. I'm representing Grow Food Northampton here, the organization that I helm. And I just wanted to let you know during the public comment portion that I know you're considering recommendations from the Community Preservation Committee to fund projects. Grow Food Northampton has a project under consideration or that will be up for vote. And if you are discussing the projects tonight, I'll remain here during that period of the City Council meeting, and I'm happy to answer questions. One of my colleagues who's overseeing the specific project should be here as well. So just so you know, if you do have questions, we're here to answer them. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In the room, Al Simon. Welcome, Al.
Good evening, everybody. Happy holidays to everyone. Al Simon, Northampton. Let me also say that I hope your meeting is shorter than your agenda suggests tonight. But I'm here to congratulate the city of Northampton on its certified free cash amount of $11,657,751. Further congratulations are in order for increasing the undesignated, unassigned cash reserves to almost $36 million. There are some claiming that this free cash is spoken for. Councilor Jarrett wrote to a friend of mine stating that $4.8 million of the certified free cash is unspent funds from fiscal year '24, which are designated for infrastructure in the Northampton High School's safety roadway improvements. It was specifically held over for those purposes. And I'm assuming you got that information from the mayor's office. There is a process for designating money for things. It can be put into the capital improvement plan. I looked at it. There doesn't seem to be mention of these expenses in the plan, the current plan. You can move the money behind the invisible fence of the capital stabilization fund. That was not done with this money. Or you can bring a financial order to appropriate and encumber the money. None of these three things were done. My point here is that there is a public, democratically accountable process for stating the spending intent and getting City Council approval and full public view. Why was this not done if commitments were made for this money? There is no earmark or designation without this. Every dollar of certified free cash is available for any legal use. It is curious that the free cash certification came so late this year, and with what seems to be a rushed capital improvement plan review, looks like a rush to sequester the free cash from the demands of pesky public school advocates. So why is there no...
That's time, Al. If you could just finish your sentence, please.
Sorry?
That was time. If you could just finish your sentence, please.
Sure. That's the end of the sentence.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. On Zoom, Sarah Sargent. Welcome, Sarah. Your name and city or town, please.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sargent. I'm a resident of Northampton, Ward 3, but I'm also the program director for Valley Community Development. And I just wanted to say I'm here tonight to speak briefly about Valley's CPA application, which is on the agenda for later tonight for approval, put forward by the CPA committee. The application supports the homeownership mortgage loan subsidy program, which has been running for 2 years. Valley's provided loans of $50,000 to assist first-time homebuyers in purchasing homes. In the last 2 years, we were able to successfully put 4 households through the program with the allotted funding. We're excited about the opportunity to continue this impactful program and expand its reach. I will stay on this evening through that time period. If any of you have questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you again for your support, and I hope everybody has a wonderful new year.
Thank you. I'm just going to check to see if anyone else has signed up of you. Okay. Ella Carlson.
Hi, thanks for your time tonight. My name is Ella Carlson. I am a resident of Northampton in Ward 3. And I just wanted to come out tonight to say thank you for passing the resolution calling for an arms embargo last month. I also wanted to bring a bunch of thank you notes from fellow Northampton residents as well as folks from around surrounding towns saying more about our gratitude and what it means to us. So just thank you for the action that you've taken, and we really hope that you'll continue to stand up courageously for Palestinian rights. We wanted to bring the thank you notes in person today because City Hall is closed. So I just wanted to ask if that's something we can give to you now, or if that's okay.
Yeah. You can give them to Laura, our administrative assistant, and she'll make sure they go to everyone.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Oh, no, announcements from councilors and the mayor is next. Announcements. Well, I have some. So Police Chief John Cartledge will be having his regular chat with the chief in Ward 5 at Tandem Bagel in Florence. That's tomorrow, Friday, the 20th, from 10 to 11 a.m. There is also a vacancy in the Ward 2 School Committee for the Ward 2 School Committee representative. And you can find information about that on the homepage of the city's website. It's actually just right at the top, northamptonma.gov. And that is open through, well, we're encouraging folks to apply through Friday, January 10th, but applications will be accepted up until 5:30 p.m. on Monday, January 13th. So normally members of the school committee are elected. However, vacancies between terms are filled by joint appointment of the city council and the remaining school committee members. And that position, whoever is selected, will be held just until the next city election. So it's a shorter time period than usual. And we're going to hold a joint meeting of the City Council and the School Committee on Monday, January 13th at 6 o'clock at the JFK Community Room. And that which candidates will have the opportunity to present. We'll ask questions of them, and then we will vote to determine who will be appointed. Feel free to reach out to me or the mayor's office if you have any questions about the process. Mayor Shara.
Good evening, councilors. First, I want to make sure that everyone knows that Tuesday, December 31st is, and not only is it first night, it's actually the 40th anniversary of first night. So this event is put on by the city, by the Northampton Arts Council, with many great sponsors, and excuse me, is a fabulous 24 hours of party, basically, downtown with over 20 venues and hundreds of performers. So these performances are for everyone, including lots of performances for kids. There is, of course, the fireworks at 6:15, and then the evening ends with the ball raising from the roof of the Hotel Northampton. So I hope that everyone is going to come out for first night to see the lineup, and also where you can purchase buttons. There are many, many locations where you can purchase buttons. Go to firstnightnorthampton.org. And I want people to know that they're still looking for a few volunteers. So if you've never volunteered at First Night, it's an incredibly fun thing to do. And it also comes with a complimentary button. So you get to work for a few hours, and then you have a button to see as many performances as you'd like. So if you want to sign up for one of the remaining volunteer spots, also go to firstnightnorthampton.org/volunteer. So thanks, everyone, for joining us on New Year's Eve in downtown Northampton, and I look forward to seeing everyone there. And then next, so this is not on the agenda for this evening, so there can't be discussion. But since, as you've heard, free cash was certified in the afternoon on Tuesday, there's been a lot of discussion and I'd say raised concern about it. So I want to address this briefly this evening to provide information before the January 2nd meeting where we will actually talk about this. So, as a reminder, free cash is generated from three sources: funds remaining and unspent from the prior year's fund balance, revenues that come in above projections, and any unspent amounts in departmental budgets. The Massachusetts Department of Revenue certifies each municipality's free cash annually in the late fall. Once the certification is made, the city can spend the free cash in the current fiscal year on any legal purposes, though, according to the best practices guidance from the state's Technical Assistance Bureau, which is part of the Division of Local Services, quote, as a recurring, the best practices as a recurring, non-recurring revenue source, free cash should be restricted to paying one-time expenditures, funding capital projects, or replenishing other reserves, end quote. The state also recommends keeping, quote, a targeted year-end unappropriated free cash balance to fund the next certification, end quote. The unspent money from the prior year's fund balance still, but atypically, includes $3.15 million in federal lost revenue funds from the American Rescue Plan Act Pandemic Relief Program. While this money is certified as part of free cash, as ARPA lost revenue funds, it's been identified as an appropriate use for necessary Main Street underground infrastructure upgrades, which we've talked about many times. The other money carried over is $1.68 million in unspent fiscal year 2024 free cash. In the capital improvement program you just received tonight, this is proposed to be used for the road safety improvements at Northampton High School. Because of the urgency of this project and the advocacy from the community, this project began off the SIP cycle. The council appropriated funding for the design of this work in January 2023 and is now ready to be moved to the construction phase, which includes appropriating funds. Therefore, the project's been included in the SIP you have before you, which is FY 26 to 30. On January 17th, 2024, a couple days ago, the state certified that the city of Northampton in fiscal year 2024 generated $6.83 million in new free cash, of which $5.55 million is from revenues and $1.28 million comes from unspent budget lines. Combined with the money carried over from the prior year, the total free cash certification came to $11.66 million. Of the additional $5.55 million in revenues, $2.4 million was from the investment income. The city has seen a significant increase in investment income in FY 23 and 24 as interest rates increased, and the city took advantage by using an investment vehicle with a secured overnight financing rate. We talked about this during the summer. Before FY 23, the 5-year average of this budget line was $201,924. This is not a budget line the city has relied on for recurring revenues because interest rates are volatile and the amount in the fund can fluctuate significantly. While going forward into FY 26, the city will increase this revenue projection. It's important to note that the Federal Reserve just cut interest rates again by an additional 0.25% yesterday for a total cut of 1% just since September. At the special council meeting on August 5th, 2024, these above average revenues were cited as a primary reason for postponing the Prop 2.5 override that was previously planned for the November 5th election. This allowed us to keep assessing our revenues before taking the step of asking voters to increase the tax levy to maintain city services. According to the state's best practices guidance, quote, under sound financial policies, a community strives to generate free cash in an amount equal to 3 to 5% of its annual budget. The $6.83 million newly generated free cash in fiscal year 24 was 5.85% of fiscal year 24's general fund budget of $116.7 million. Additionally, the state recommends, quote, defining a target balance for free cash certification as a percentage of the general fund budget, such as 5 to 7%, end quote. The total amount of locally generated free cash available for use in fiscal year 25, including the newly generated $6.83 million and the carryover of $1.68 million, but not counting the $3.15 million in federal ARPA money, totals $8.51 million. This amounts to 6.93 of the fiscal year 25 general fund budget of $122.8 million. During the peak of the pandemic and its aftermath, budget estimating has been challenging, since economic projections cannot be easily based on performance of the prior years. For the last several years, Northampton, like many municipalities in the Commonwealth, used very cautious estimates, which led to unusually high amounts of free cash. In the fiscal year 2025 budget, the city has adopted a more aggressive strategy for its budget estimates while still aiming to meet the 3 to 5% best practice target. So thank you for letting me kind of go over that, and we will again talk about this in depth or at all on January 2nd in the new year. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Looking forward to that discussion. Other announcements from councilors? Councilor Labarge. Your microphone.
Thank you. I just want to wish all my residents and their children, families, happy holidays, and also Merry Christmas, and a safe New Year 2025. I also want to thank everybody in the city of Northampton. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and have a happy, happy New Year, and stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Jeremy? Councilor Dubs, sorry.
You can call me Jeremy. Thanks. I actually have an announcement from Councilor Rothenberg. She was unable to attend tonight, so I was going to read that first. Councilor Rothenberg regrets she is unable to attend tonight's meeting as she is fielding an extremely high number of calls from voters about the $11.6 million city surplus reported by the Department of Revenue. Waverly is so grateful to the voters of Ward 3 for paying such close attention to our budget. She says to keep up the good work. That's from Councilor Rothenberg. And from Ward 4, I just want to echo Councilor Labarge and say happy
Thank you. Any other announcements? All right, Councilor Maori.
Well, actually, I was going to nudge the mayor to announce about the warming centers.
Oh, my goodness.
I just don't have it in front of me, and I think she does probably, or maybe I can probably fast.
She's preparing.
And she just said, "Oh my goodness," and is getting it ready.
Thank you so much.
I'm just so glad that the city provides them.
Thank you so much for that, Councilor Maori. Yes, so we, the start of next week, starting on Sunday, it's expected to be really cold. You wouldn't know it from right now, but so we are offering warming centers starting on Sunday, and that's going to be at Manna Community Center at St. John's Church on Elm Street. Oh wait, sorry, I'm just reading this through. So we want people to know that Manna is always open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 3. And this week we'll open a warming center on Sunday from noon to 4. And also, of course, Manna provides meals at Edwards Church on Friday and Saturday from 11:30 to 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. But the Northampton Police Department is open 24 hours a day, and individuals are welcome to warm up in the lobby there. The Northampton Senior Center is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., although it will be closed on Tuesday, December 24th, and Wednesday, December 25th, and also December 31st and January 1st. And Forbes Library is open Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 10 to 6 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, but is closed on Sunday. But we hope that people will take advantage of these locations that are going to be available on these very cold days. And again, thank you, Councilor Maori, for reminding me about that. Appreciate it.
If anyone knows someone who needs a place to stay, I've also provided funds.
Why don't you?
Additionally, the City of Northampton has provided additional funds to CSO and to Craig's Doors for emergency winter sheltering for overnight hotel stays. So above and beyond what is available in shelters, if someone needs a place to sleep, they should reach out to either CSO, Craig's Doors, or they could go through DCC, and they will do everything they can to try and find someone a warm place to sleep at night during the coldest nights.
Great, thank you. Okay, if there's no more announcements, we'll go to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the minutes of December 5th, 2024. We have 24.163B, appointments to the Arts Council and Human Rights Commission, which received positive recommendations from City Services on December 16th. They are to the Arts Council, Amelia Shaw, and to the Human Rights Commission, Kathleen Chapman. 24.167, appointments to the Board of Assessors and the Housing Partnership. Positive recommendations by City Services on December 16th. To the Board of Assessors, Mary Penny. And to the Housing Partnership, Benjamin Wood. 24.171, in order to reprogram money to NPS Energy Project account. 24.172, in order to reprogram NPS projects to NPS grounds account. 24.173, in order to reprogram funds for Gare garage repairs. 24.174, in order to reprogram funds to IT integrated municipal data system account. So that's the consent agenda. Are there any removals from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Elkins. That's what I heard. There's no discussion on the consent agenda, so a roll call vote, please.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yeah.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
And Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Which brings us to financial orders on first reading. And the first one is 24.177, an order to change ownership of a parcel belonging to Suzanne Curtis. And do we have someone from Mayor's Office or Planning and Sustainability to speak to this? Okay. Oh, it's Sarah LaValle, actually. And we need to make Sarah a co-host.
Looking for her. I'm having trouble finding her on the list.
Okay. I do see her.
You do? It's alphabetical order, isn't it?
Yep. And, yeah, are you able to speak?
Yes, I can't turn my video on, but I,
Okay, once we make you a co-host, you should be able to do that. Okay, you are now a co-host. Welcome, Sarah.
thank you. So this is a very complicated order that's correcting an error that is long-standing that no one noticed for years. As shown on the map in the council order, there were two parcels that were owned by Suzanne Curtis. The city was actually hoping to acquire both of them, but acquired one of them, not the other, and somewhere along the line the numbers got mixed up. Suzanne Curtis didn't notice for many years. The assessors didn't notice for many years. It was just a long-standing error, both with really low-value parcels that are part of the Fitzgerald Lake area. So I guess the owner looked at her tax bills a little bit more closely and said, this doesn't seem quite right. And we did a lot of digging into it. We're quite able to tell what had happened to cause this. I don't know if the assessors' IDs just got transposed at some point. But both the order of takings and the assessor's information was involved. So we're hoping that the city council can approve this so we can take care of it and make sure that ownership is straightened out.
Great, thank you. Other questions?
Yeah.
Councilor Labarge.
Yeah. Sarah, now, is this owner paying taxes of her with those two lots that you're talking about?
It was sort of a wash because we had one listed as city ownership and one listed as belonging to this private owner, about equal value. So it comes out in the wash. There wasn't any loss of taxes or taxes being paid in the long run on a city parcel.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just as a follow-up to that, so somebody has had communication with Suzanne Curtis, and she's satisfied with the correction of the error, and she won't be seeking any money from the city at some point that she claims she's owed because of any, we say it's a wash, but perhaps, I want to make sure she has agreed to that.
Yeah, she did. So she was the one who reached out to the assessor's office initially with some documentation, and she seemed happy with the outcome. So we're just correcting it on the books to make sure that she is the owner of the parcel that she owns, and that the city is the owner of the parcel that they own.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I had a question. So, there's a map in the order, and there's parcels 214 and 27, and you're saying one of those was, like the ownership was swapped essentially, but between the city and Suzanne Curtis?
Correct, yeah. So we were listed as, the city was listed as the owner for 214, and it should have been 27, and so Suzanne's ownership was reversed as well.
Okay, so the city owns 27, and Suzanne owns 214, and that's what if we pass this order, that will be fixed.
Correct.
To match that. Okay, Thanks. There was just a scrivener's error, too, on the second page, first paragraph. Suzanne is missing an N. So we can... Okay. So if there's no further discussion or questions, we can either refer this to the consent agenda of our next meeting or to finance.
Move to refer to consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
Oh, man. Motion made by Counselor Moulton and seconded by Counselor Clemmer. And is there any discussion on referral to the consent agenda? Okay, roll call, please, on that referral.
Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yeah.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
And Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously and will be on the consent agenda of our January 2nd meeting. That brings us to a package of 8 Community Preservation Committee Community Preservation Act funding recommendations. And the first one is 24.178, in order to appropriate CPA funds to Valley CDC Mortgage Subsidy Program. And I believe that Sarah LaValle is also here to speak to these items.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a presentation. So before I get going into the details of each order, just a quick overview that there's, I missed a number, just over 1.9 million being recommended in CPA funding from the Community Preservation Committee this round. This represents projects in all CPA program areas: historic preservation, open space, recreation, and affordable housing. And the Community Preservation Committee, which is made up of a mix of 9 elected and appointed members and represent people who represent other boards and committees, committed extensive review, including applicant presentations, site visits, public comment sessions, and deliberation. And the second round of fiscal year 25 applications will be beginning soon. So the mortgage subsidy program, which I know Sarah Sargent spoke to during public comment, is a continuation of a program that had taken place beginning in 2021. And CPA funds will be used to provide two $50,000 down payment and closing cost assistance loans to allow low and moderate income first-time home buyers purchase homes in Northampton. And these will help close the gap between typical home prices and the amount of housing debt that a lower moderate income household can support. And this creates home ownership opportunities. So this program is a little bit different than a typical housing creation program. So we're not creating any new units, but supporting those individuals who are low to moderate income.
Right, okay, and we're going to go through one by one, and this is the first one. So, are there questions about this mortgage subsidy program?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Labarge.
Thank you. Sarah, the only question I have, I think this is a great idea. All of us counselors are hearing how it is so expensive to go ahead and buy a home here in Northampton or either live here. My question is this similar to how Habitat works or not? Because I know with Habitat, if you go to sell their house, correct, you have to make sure it is somebody of the same level, right? They could not just sell it to anybody.
Yeah, so this program is a little bit different in that it's a one-time assistance to an eligible household. So it works like a typical mortgage. Each year there's a forgiveness. If the unit is then sold, that funding will go back into the Community Preservation Act Affordable Housing Fund. Yeah. But this doesn't continue affordability of any particular home going forward.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
And over how many years is the loan forgiven?
it's a structure of, but I believe it's 20 years. But I'd have to check to be sure.
Right, so if they sell the house within that period, the remaining money goes back into the CPA funds.
That's correct. And the entire loan isn't fully forgiven, so that even when it's fully amortized and the house is then sold, there's still a little bit that's returned to the CPA, Affordable Housing Fund.
Great. Any other questions on this item? Councilor Maori.
Yeah, we may have more opportunities to discuss it. I think it seems like a wonderful thing to provide. I'm not really a big fan of holding low-income people to a property and then, I think 20 years is a long time for people who may or may not be able to afford to keep living here, but I think it's a great, I think it's a fabulous idea. And I also was just wondering, they don't have to use it for low-income housing. I wonder, I do worry, and I wish we had more housing I wish this would go farther. But I think any amount helps. But I don't, it doesn't sound like it's restricted to any type of, like market rate versus other.
It isn't. But it is typically used by those looking to purchase a market rate home, because the gap between a low mod income individual or family and what's currently on the market in Northampton and what is likely to continue to be on the market is so great. So this $50,000 helps create some eligibility for a traditional mortgage.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Then we can either refer this to the consent agenda or to finance.
Good.
Well, Council President, I'm going to propose that we refer all 8 of these items as a package to the Finance Committee to allow for, this is, significant amount of money, we're talking about almost $2 million of money. There are 8 different programs, and I'd like to have the opportunity for both councilors and the public to, have an additional chance to speak about the project. So my preference is that they be referred as a package, and with the understanding, and I've conferred with Chair Maori about this, that we're not going to have a Finance Committee meeting between now and January 2nd. So it would be a Finance Committee after the next full council meeting to bring back recommendations for the second meeting in January 16th.
Okay. So we could you could make that motion now, or we could go through all of the items and then make the referral of all of them. Do you have a preference?
I don't. That's really.
Why don't I move to refer? Well.
Move to refer all items to all remaining.
Yeah.
Items to finance.
It was already done. There's a little bit of a lag. But yes, I'm making a motion to refer them to finance committee.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so that motion is now on the floor for discussion. Yep, so yeah, Councilor Maori made and Councilor Moulton seconded to refer all of the CPA items as a package to the Finance Committee. Is there discussion on that? Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Clymer.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a question. So just to clarify, so the finance meeting is going to be after January 2nd meeting. So what happens then? Because the second reading would normally be January 2nd?
Yeah, so when we refer something to a committee, it actually has a significant amount of time to report, unless there's some other item, some other reason that that something has to come back sooner. So, the committee can decide when it's going to hold its meeting, and then if it's ready to make its recommendation.
So the second reading will just be maybe our second meeting in January then?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
That seems likely.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Labarge.
So right now, we don't know when we're going to go ahead and have that meeting?
Yeah, don't forget, turn on your mic. So Councilor Labarge asked
Yes.
when the meeting might be. Sometime between the 2nd and the 16th, I heard. And that will be, I'm sure Councilor Maori will arrange to
Hopefully
schedule
we'll find
a time.
out soon. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on this motion? Councilor Elkins.
Yeah, if we are just speaking to this motion, I actually, we don't always refer CPA to finance.
I know.
And I guess my just concern is that this is already a very thoroughly vetted process by, among whom are elected people who have spent a tremendous amount of time doing this, as in addition to the different entities that have come forward with projects, spent an awful lot of time to develop this. I'm going to vote no on this referral. I just think, and that process has been open and transparent and subject to public meetings and has gone through a significant process. So and we get another bite at the apple at second reading. So I would put that out there that we're coming into budget season. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time for the Finance Committee in particular. And there's a great deal of information about these projects. So I understand the reasons for making the motion and the referral, and I'm on finance, so if it goes that way, I'm certainly will come, and I'm sure it'll be a great discussion. I want to be mindful of the time that's already been put into this by members of the community and the CPA committee members.
Councilor Moulton.
Well, I can only speak to my 2 terms on council. We did refer the CPA projects last spring, the second round of the 2024 to finance, and I think we had a pretty robust discussion at the Finance Committee. I attended one CPC meeting I think it was in November, when it was not the meeting at which the recommendations were made, but it was a meeting when projects were described. And and we heard tonight from a couple of people representing applicants. I think there's a lot of community interest in these projects. There are a broad range of projects. I'd just like to see, and it's not just for councilors to hear, but I'd just like to give the public another opportunity to tell us why these are valuable projects. In a setting that's a bit less formal than the full council.
Any other discussion on this referral to finance? Councilor Maori.
I'm just going to add that, and Sarah LaValle can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no time sensitivity here in terms of the range we're talking about. And I think we have a pretty packed meeting, just happen to have one on the 2nd probably. I concur with my vice chair that I think we could give this the attention it deserves and kind of complement the work that's been done and get it back to council in a timely manner.
Anyone else? Councilor Labarge.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from Sarah again on this. Where is she?
She's here.
Okay. I mean, is this something that has to be moved tonight, Sarah? Or can we wait on this?
So unlike the end of the fiscal year in June, where the votes have to take place before June 30th, this isn't something that absolutely needs to happen on second reading before the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
Some applicants are really itching to get started on their projects, but a delay of a few weeks shouldn't pose a tremendous problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other hands, roll call please on referral as a package to finance.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yes?
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
And Counselor Elkins.
Oh, fine, yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. However, we can still discuss the items if folks have questions about the other items. I'm not going to preclude any questions while we have Sarah here and we have the full council, though we've referred it as a package. Counselor Maori.
I was just going to say, I know that there was some of, like, Grow Food Northampton, I see. If there's anyone who, is here and would like to say something in case they're not able to join later, I don't know if you would be up for that. But that would be good, since they're here tonight.
If a counselor has a specific question for a person who has a CPC application, I would recognize that person.
Thank you.
I'm just going to look through. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I have any specific questions about these right now. Look forward to second reading. So I see Elisa Klein has her hand up, and is there any objection to recognizing? Okay. Elisa Klein, let me ask you to unmute. And Laura may make you a co-host as well.
For some reason, it's not allowing me to start my video, so I will just speak like this. But
oh, we lost you. And I believe once you're a co-host,
Searching for her.
then you'll be able to start your video.
That was me accidentally muting her, trying to make her a co-host.
Oh, okay.
me. There we
Okay,
go.
welcome back.
Hi. So it seems like the ship has sailed because you've already decided to send this to finance, but it's a little bit frustrating for me to hear this because we have a situation, and it may be true for other potential, for the other candidates here. We have a contractor on hold, and we have a contract to sign with them, and if we don't sign the contract within 30 days of when we receive the bid, they can then raise the prices on the contract. So this is essentially, this delay is putting us in a position where we may end up having to pay more for the same project. As many of you know, I was a city councilor, and I don't remember that we ever sent a CPC project to the Finance Committee. As Councilor Elkins said, there is very serious due diligence that goes on with the CPC. So it's a little bit frustrating to be one of the candidates for this funding and to know that we may end up having to pay more for our project because of this delay. But again, I realize that you guys already took your vote, so just so you know for the future, I guess.
We did take this.
Can there be a minority reconsideration?
Majority.
Right.
Can we do majority reconsideration?
Yes.
I move for majority reconsideration.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Okay. Motion for majority reconsideration of the referral to finance of the package made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Labarge. Discussion on reconsideration.
What does the vote have to be?
It's a good question. I've never done this. Let's take a look at the rules.
Information? Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a lag. just point of information, I was hoping that Elisa could tell us what timeline she's thinking, though. She may not know that we're planning to meet the first or second week of January. So I just I wanted to hear what her time frame that she's concerned about is. I don't know. She didn't say when the 30 days are. So I just,
Yep, absolutely. So feel free to, it's relevant to our reconsideration because it's about the time frame. So go ahead and ask the question. So, yeah, go ahead. Or Elisa, if you want to speak to that.
Yep, I don't have the contract in front of me, so I don't remember the exact, or the bid right in front of me, so I don't remember what day the bid was submitted. I'd have to look at a calendar and look at the actual bid. But it sounds like if the Finance Committee happens after your next meeting and then you wait until the third Thursday of January, right, for it to come back to the council, would you do the vote that night, or do you do two votes?
We would do the vote that night, so it would be up for a vote January 16th.
Third Thursday in January.
Yes.
Okay. I do think that that actually puts us beyond our 1 month, but for whatever that's worth.
Okay. Thank you for that information. So the vote is basically it has to fail. We just take the vote again, and if it passes, then it it stays in place and you can't reconsider it again. If it fails, then we get to discuss what to do separately. Do we want to refer just one to the consent agenda and the rest to finance, etc.?
oh, okay. President, Chair, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to understand. So we have to wait for it to fail to suggest that we remove the Grow Food Northampton item and send all the other ones? Does it have to fail before, or can we do that now and suggest that we simply remove the Grow Food one?
We're getting into Robert's rules that I am just not familiar with. Laura, do you have? I know that having it fail and then making another motion would be perfectly acceptable, so I would suggest that we go forward with that.
Yeah, that's a little different though, but yeah.
Yeah, we're only voting then for it to fail as a full package. We could then make another vote with, say, a package of 7 with Grow Foods CPA order excluded.
Oh, okay, thank you, that helps.
I'm not sure if it makes any difference, but the low bidder quote was valid through December 22nd only.
Okay. Oh, for
what, Sarah?
For Grow Food?
For the pavilion price.
Sarah, the bid was revised down, so we have a later bid.
Okay, that was the most recent one that we had, but okay. So, but in any case, time is of the essence.
I'm also concerned that there might be other projects in here that have a similar situation, so I don't know if it really is addressing the issue if you just remove Grow Food Northampton.
I know.
In all fairness to the other projects.
Councilor Elkins, then Councilor Moulton.
I might suggest that we go forward with the initial vote about the package and then come back to it, because I do have similar concerns as Elisa, and maybe there's a motion that we could make that takes that into account.
Okay. Councilor Moulton.
Well, I'd like to ask Sarah again, are you aware of any other projects that would be affected by a vote on January 16th as opposed to January 2nd?
You're muted.
Northampton was definitely the one that had the biggest time crunch, and that was something that was identified by the Community Preservation Committee as well. And a few of the others would be ready to move forward as soon as funds are in hand. The historic Epic Buildings and the Historic Structures Report are two of those that definitely move forward. And I'm just not sure about the rest of them and what applicants' timelines are.
Well, we do have Sarah Sargent here if we want someone from Valley CDC to speak to, but I do suggest like Counselor Elkins said, that we proceed with this vote, and then I think everyone's amenable to a different vote, a different set of referrals. But Counselor Labarge, you had your hand?
No, I wanted to hear what Sarah was going to say.
Okay.
But I do, and I want to say, our former counselor, Alyssa Klein, is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. As long as I've been a city councilor, I have never, ever seen it, ever, being sent to Finance Committee. She's absolutely correct about this. I have to say the Community Preservation Committee, the commission, they worked tirelessly on this, really tirelessly. Attend the meetings and see what it's all about. They just don't say, we're just going to go ahead and look at it and send it. They spend time on it, all of them. So I have to agree with what I just heard with a former city councilor. And I bet you if we had other former city councilors, they would be agreeing with that. A lot of work is put in by this commission. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. I would note that in the past, finance was part of the full council meeting, so there wasn't usually a need to refer it to finance.
Right.
But since we've changed that, we certainly have referred some CPA projects, including all of the ones back in June, but also the project on Holly Street with the church renovation was referred as well. Okay, are we prepared to vote,
Yes.
to reconsider?
Can you explain the vote, please?
Yes, so the vote would need to fail, meaning, there's 4 no votes, in order for it then to be off the table, to not pass, and then we can consider a different approach. So you will need to vote, at least, 4 people will need to vote no in order for the vote to fail, and for it to not be referred to finance.
That's included with it, to vote no, so it does not go to.
Right, we're reconsidering the motion to refer it to finance.
Just like a new vote.
So, President, so if you vote no, you're voting no on the previous motion?
Right.
Okay.
We're just taking a revote of the previous motion to refer them as a package to finance. Are we ready to vote?
So vote yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Clemmer.
No.
Counselor Labarge.
No.
Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Counselor Moulton.
No.
Counselor Perry.
No.
Okay, Counselor Dubs.
Yes.
Counselor Elkins.
No.
Counselor Jarrett.
No. So that fails 6-2. Okay, that is now off the table, and we can consider another approach. Counselor Moulton.
Let me just say, this is in no way disrespecting the work of the Community Preservation Committee. I know they spend hours reviewing these projects, and I appreciate all the work that goes into that. And as we've said, we referred the entire package last spring to finance. We referred individual projects to finance. I don't want to adversely affect anyone's the project price for any of these applicants. And since we've heard from Grow Food Northampton tonight, I would then make a motion that we refer the other 7 projects to finance, with the exception of the Grow Food Northampton.
Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Moulton and seconded by Counselor Maori to refer all of the CPA projects except 24.184 in order to appropriate $202,000 in CPA funds to Grow Food for Community Farm Pavilion Project. Discussion. Counselor Elkins.
And I want to be clear, Counselor Moulton, I certainly don't think that you were, didn't mean to imply in any way that is, I just, because I know you value everybody who works in these roles in the city, for sure. I still nonetheless, I think I'm going to stick to my guns this time. That being said, might consider if we added to the motion to the other sort of infrastructure or because there's always the risk that construction costs go up. I mean, things in this environment, things are going up so quickly, and if there are projects ready to go. So the ones that are about the Affordable Housing Fund, perhaps, I guess I look to Sarah for those kinds of things, but I think anything that's sort of ready to go to spend on a thing, it seems like is worth. I mean, I also remember that like the playground, for instance, the last go around, we got lots of feedback at every opportunity, and it was from the same supporters, and it was just great. I mean, we were happy to pass that, and but for these things that are kind of shovel ready, so to speak, I think there's value in moving them along. I know it's not going to add a ton of time, but in this environment, it doesn't take a lot for things to kind of get out of whack based on people's estimates and all the groundwork that goes into planning these things and understanding what they're going to cost. So that's my pitch. I also like these kinds of votes where we can all just do what we think's right, and it comes out the way it comes, and we'll all come and work.
So would you like to ask Sarah LaValle for any information?
Sure. Sarah, if you had any thoughts about sort of the ones that there might be some risk of costs going up or that are just like actionable, or if there's any ones that could be removed for a closer look in finance, I'd be appreciative to hear that.
Sure. So going down the list, I'm just looking at those that would be ready for an immediate bidding process. Mansfield is certainly one of them. I know the Recreation Department was hoping to move that forward as quickly as possible. Hopefully they get ready for a grant application. Historic Northampton could certainly move the Shepherd House Historic Structures report forward quickly. But I'm not sure that one has the same type of time crunch because there aren't any construction or other costs. It would just be one consultant. Same with the historic outbuilding documentation. A delay of a few weeks was a hardship for the Historical Commission. The tennis and basketball court rehabilitation, this is the final funding piece, and I believe as soon as this vote occurs and the funding is awarded, that the Central Services and the Rec Department will be able to go out to bid. The Affordable Housing Fund is not as critical. The fund is almost tapped out at this point, but we do have a little bit remaining, so a delay wouldn't cause an issue there. Cook Avenue housing, I'm honestly not quite sure about. I don't know what Habitat for Humanity's timeline for that one is.
Councilor Labarge, your microphone.
Sarah, what about the one on the tennis courts and basketball courts?
Yeah, that would be one with more of a time crunch. That I know the Rec Department and Central Services would like to move that forward and get someone under contract for the work.
Thank you.
So Mainsfield and the tennis courts are the other two that might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I see we have Tony Kusniers from the school building department here, and I would recognize Tony to speak to this item. If you could make Tony a co-host.
What about Sarah?
I think we're waiting to hear from
Oh.
Tony. Just a second.
Oh,
Should be up.
because
I know Tony was here to speak to another item, so I'm not.
Well,
He was-
his hand is raised.
Oh, great,
so-
okay.
Hi there, I just was able to unmute. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily here to speak on this, but Sarah's point, yeah, this is the final funding piece for our project. So without this final piece, we can't give the okay for the final stage of design and then bidding. So yeah, it would definitely slow that down for us.
Thank you.
Which one is that?
The tennis courts and basketball at JFK.
There you go.
And Sarah Sargent from Valley CDC is also to speak to the first item, the Valley CDC Mortgage Subsidy Program. We'll get you made a co-host.
Council President,
Yes.
on the 8B, on the CPA funds to Valley CDC mortgage, we're going to be sending that to finance.
We're going to discuss that because we have someone here from Valley CDC who I think is going to give their thoughts on the urgency.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Sarah, go ahead.
Hey everyone, happy to answer any questions specifically to this. It is a continuation of an existing program. So we're already in the motions and have, there's previous marketing that has been done. Also with homeownership, it is kind of a sweet spot right now in buying. Excuse me. We have been working and doing financial literacy with many of our homeowners and many of them who are looking to purchase in Northampton. And a mortgage subsidy takes about a 6-week turnaround time. So a lot of things have to line up into place, and some of our buyers are ready to go and could be very quickly in the start of the new year looking to purchase. I think the thing for me is, I guess my question to City Council would be, or to the two that have asked for it to originally go to Finance, if there's something specific that you are concerned about with this program, I'm happy to answer those questions now if that helps alleviate that.
Councilor Moulton.
Sarah, I don't have any specific questions for you. I think it's a great program. Council President, I'm going to withdraw my motion. I believe that tonight we've heard in a fortuitous way from a number of representatives of projects who have told us that it would be adverse to wait for 4 weeks rather than the usual 2 weeks. We are in a very peculiar situation where the Chair of Finance and I have agreed that because of the holiday season, we cannot have a Finance Committee meeting in the next 2 weeks. But because of what we've heard tonight, I was doing this primarily for the public, but I feel that it would have an adverse effect. So I'm going to withdraw my motion to refer any of these to Finance, and hope that we'll continue on to hear from Sarah LaValle and ask any questions, and then take them up again on January 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Maori, would you like to speak to, I believe you seconded?
Yeah, that's fine with me. But I do really want to just clarify that, yes, this is just an atypical thing where referring to subcommittees does not generally slow anything down at all. But this is a substantial amount of tax money. This has nothing to do with, for me, at least, concerns about the projects or anything about the CPA. I'm fine with, because of the situation with the holidays, I'm fine with withdrawing my second, but I just want to clarify that in general, when these projects come before us, I'm going to feel the same way. When we're dealing with a substantial amount of tax money, it is our job to have opportunities to bring in the public, not in our own council. So this will be happening again. I just want to give you that spoiler alert. But it makes sense to me, and I think these are a lot of, they look like great projects, so I concur that in this situation, I'm fine. I'm sorry that COVID is kicking in.
Thank you, Councilor Maori. So is there consent among the council to withdraw this motion? Motions actually belong to the whole council once they're made, but by consent, we can withdraw them. Okay. And so we'll discuss them tonight, and we'll also have the opportunity for them to be removed from the consent agenda on January 2nd if there is further discussion needed.
Well, there hasn't been a motion to move them to consent agenda.
No, but I'm presuming that if we're not going to refer them to finance, then we'll probably refer them to the consent agenda. So if that does happen, we can remove them if necessary to have further discussion. Councilor Clemmer.
Yeah, I just couldn't get my hand up before you started talking, but yeah, I just, in this political climate, I think there's a chance that prices could go up quickly, and with the holidays too, I think, it's in everybody's best interest to move this along. It seems like they've been thoroughly vetted, and we do have more opportunity to talk about them at the next meeting, so I'd hate to see us delay anything and have the project not be able to happen because the cost is prohibitive.
Thank you. So I'd propose that we go through, talk about all of them, and then refer them as a group to the consent agenda, just to avoid all those roll call votes. So, we had already talked about where we were in the middle of the CPA funds to the Valley CDC mortgage subsidy program. Is there any further discussion on this item or questions? Okay, we'll move to 24.179, in order to appropriate $90,000 in CPA funds to Mainsfield Flood Resilience Project. And Sarah, if you'd like to resume your presentation.
So Mainsfield is one of the city's most popular recreational facilities, but it has been damaged by Mill River flooding several times over the past few years, and this has resulted in closures and repair costs. This project will examine the existing conditions of Mainsfield and the surrounding Mill Rivers through topographic surveys and detailed hydrologic and hydraulic modeling, or H&H, and utilize that data to design a more flood-resilient park that can adapt to the changing climate while still allowing for recreational uses. So this Mainsfield is the city's only lighted softball field, and this shows some of the different amenities available there, as well as the flood damage. So the rec department and DPW understands that flooding will continue, but what they're hoping to do through this CPA-funded project is to figure out where the damage is likely to occur, what's really going on with the Mill River system, and use that information to then meet with users and figure out something that can make sense moving forward. So where can we have roadways and other infrastructure in locations where it won't be damaged, and make the overall area more flood resilient. And this represented a partial award. The scientific study was one component, and then there was a related public outreach component. But the CPC felt really strongly that the scientific work needed to be done prior to the public engagement, and that maybe that could be done in some other way. So this is a partial funding request.
Thank you. Councilor Labarge.
Yeah, Sarah, what company are they looking at for surveying and also the modeling part of it?
So they had reached out to Fuss & O'Neill initially. Nothing is set in stone at this point, and they would do a request for proposals to select a firm if this is approved by City Council, but Fuss & O'Neill have done the initial estimate and put together the scope of work.
But doesn't the city basically a lot of the work, and I know like with Wayne Biden and that, Berkshire Design, they were doing quite a bit of work for the city of Northampton.
Yeah, and the rec department uses Berkshire frequently for lots of different types of projects, but the focus on this is really a scientific H&H study of the river, which is something that a broader firm would specialize a little bit more, while Berkshire would do maybe the resulting plans from the public outreach.
I am very happy to hear about this. Hopefully it's going to happen. You know, I mean, just with the pavilion, I've seen so many people enjoying Meansfield. Also, some people have meetings there too. That pavilion is absolutely beautiful. And with the flooding, it has done some damage down there. So we need to control it.
Any other comments or questions about this project? Well, I'll say, yes, I absolutely agree. Mainsfield is a fabulous resource. It's in Ward 5, and I appreciate the project will work with forces of nature to inform the future designs. That seems very, very smart. Okay, then we will move to the next project, which is 24.180, in order to appropriate CPA funds for an historic structures report for Shepherd House.
So Historic Northampton is the repeat requester of CPA funding, and they've been able to do some really amazing work. The CPC felt strongly that this would be something that would continue that legacy. So the 1796 Shepherd House at the Historic Northampton campus is vacant now after many years of tenancy. Historic Northampton's goal is ultimately to open it to the public, but a critical first step in being able to do that is reconnaissance and really understanding what they have and assessing what would make sense to have it be an additional component to the museum. And a detailed historic structures report will document the existing condition and the history of the building and the property, and provide the rationale for the most appropriate approaches to repair, restoration, rehabilitation, and reuse before any work is done.
Questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 24.181, in order to appropriate CPA funds for documentation of historic accessory structures.
So this funding will provide for a reconnaissance level survey of the most historically significant barns, carriage houses, sheds, shops, and other ancillary buildings and structures citywide. And this will fulfill one of the goals of the city's historic preservation plan. Many outbuildings are immediately at risk, and many others have already been lost. There's two examples here. One is a barn on South Street, and another is an agricultural barn in the Meadows. And because we don't have a comprehensive inventory of historic outbuildings, which is really common, often we'll have a lot more information about a principal structure, so the focus is on that, and over time we've lost the details of the outbuildings. We don't have a firm grasp of how many exist or in what condition they are. And an inventory of the most critical structures will fill this knowledge gap and will be the first step towards planning for reuse or preservation.
Hey, thank you. Questions on this project? Yeah, I'm happy to support the preservation of these structures. And Councilor Elkins and I have been considering a zoning ordinance related to these, and one of the problems is determining how many of these structures exist. So having an inventory would really help us in that project and help preserve some of these buildings. So I think more information will help everyone.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm excited about this project. I think it's a good one to get in the books.
Okay. 24.182, in order to appropriate $402,000 in CPA funds to JFK tennis courts and basketball court rehabilitation.
So this is one that had an incredible amount of public support from a wide variety of users. The courts at JFK Middle School were constructed in 1996, which doesn't sound like that long ago to me, but it's coming up on 3 decades, and that is beyond the useful life of a tennis or basketball court. Maintenance and repairs have allowed the courts to exceed their life expectancy, but now they're really getting to the point where they're in need of replacement. CPA funds will be able to supplement capital improvement funding to allow for continued use of the only publicly owned tennis courts in the city. The courts are all either currently unplayable for competitive high school matches due to the severity of the cracking, and there's some pretty stark examples here of what that looks like, are unsafe for play or have cracks and holes that interrupt play and present hazards. And bundling all of the court rehabilitations together will also provide a cost savings as well. So there's a cost savings and mobilization by doing everything all at the same time.
Great, thank you. Questions on this one? Okay, yeah, happy to see this moving forward, and happy that we can have a capital improvement project and a CPA project that complement each other. 24.183, in order to appropriate $75,000 in CPA funds to Affordable Housing Fund.
Right, so this is a continuation of a program that the Office of Planning and Sustainability has been able to implement successfully over a period of years. And in this one, CPA funds will be utilized for due diligence and soft costs for pre-development work necessary for new affordable housing opportunities. And this includes things like environmental site assessments, site planning, surveys, and other activities for which no other funding sources are available. The fund has been instrumental in making sites development ready for partners, including Valley CDC and Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity. So, typically when the council and CPC see a request for CPA funding for affordable housing creation, especially if city-owned property were previously involved, the Affordable Housing Fund was really instrumental in allowing that to happen. And it reduces the ultimate cost for our affordable housing development partners and allows the housing to be created more expeditiously. And there's two examples here. One of them is the Laurel Street project that's currently occurring under the guidance of Valley CDC. And the other is a project on Birds Pit Road, which created several homeownership opportunities under Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity. And both of these were parcels related to the former Northampton State Hospital, ended up in city hands for varying timelines and reasons, but there was a lot of work that needed to be done before these were development ready for partners, and this fund really allowed that to happen.
Great, thank you. Councilor Maori.
I already said this, Sarah, but do we used to have a fund?
So yes, and this is, I believe, the third iteration of funding of the Affordable Housing Fund, but it's fairly new. We've had a conservation fund for really since the CPA was enacted, but the Affordable Housing Fund is only about 4 years old. But it's made a huge difference.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah, if I find, you look at how much CPA funds have leveraged other grants, and there's a chart on the CPC page that shows, okay, for each category of CPA funding, how much have you leveraged? And the affordable housing is very impressive to see how much that this CPA funds and how many other grants we've gotten to fund. And so these are the costs you need to fund first in order to get those other ones. 24.184, in order to appropriate $202,000 in CPA funds to grow food for a community farm pavilion project.
It's discussed a little bit already, but some additional details. The organic community gardens and farm were initially preserved and created in part using CPA funding. Big project, but CPA was an instrumental piece of that. Grow Food Northampton offers comprehensive gardening, farming, climate resilience, and other food system-related education for 400 gardeners and learners of all ages. And that's in conjunction with all of the other food distribution and other fantastic programming that they offer. And the Pavilion Project, which includes a walking path with opportunities for food foraging and free pick your own orchard, will allow Grow Food Northampton to expand its educational offerings, and the pavilion will also serve as the hub and home base for this work and provide shade and a gathering space. And one of the drawbacks of the community gardens is that, when it's really hot out, there's not a lot of places to, cool off and chat with people, and this will really fulfill that need.
Great, thank you. Questions? All right, yeah, great project, great community benefit. The last CPA item is 24.185, in order to appropriate $200,000 in CPA funds to Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity for Cook Avenue affordable homes.
So Pioneer Valley Habitat will construct 4 small energy-efficient homes at the site of the former Moose Lodge. 2 will be detached and 2 attached at the terminus of Cook Avenue, and these will be sold with affordable mortgages to families who earn up to 60% of the area median income. The homes will be affordability restricted in perpetuity, so what Councilor Labarge had asked about previously, this is creating a permanently affordable homeownership unit. This will never change. And they provide some unique homeownership opportunities close to the Broadbrook Greenway, shopping, amenities, and transportation as well.
Councilor Moulton.
How did you know I wanted to speak to this?
It's your ward.
It is my ward, and it's probably the property which I have become most familiar with in my ward in my 3 years on the council, the former Moose Lodge property. But I will repeat here what I told the CPC. I very strongly support this, both because of Habitat's track record in Northampton, and particularly this site, as Sarah just said, it's a great spot for affordable housing, being close to shopping, close to transportation, and particularly close to conservation land. So, yes, I enthusiastically endorse this, and I believe it will be well received in the neighborhood.
Great, thank you. Other comments or questions? Yeah, I'll add, I'm so happy to see more affordable homes, and especially those that allow for home ownership opportunity. Most are rentals, which is also very much needed. And we know that given today's construction costs, that this is a small fraction of the cost to build these 4 homes. So great work by Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity to get this, all the financing and get this project done. And of course, with Habitat for Humanity, the new homeowners put in sweat equity, which helps reduce the cost. Councilor Labarge.
I was just going to ask her about the equity part about it. I mean, Sarah, I don't know if you've been up on Ward 6 right now to look at Woodland on the Habitat house that they're putting up. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You should take a ride over and take a look at that. I'm trying to find more space in Ward 6 to put more Habitat in there. We're doing very well.
Councilor Moulton.
So now I will refer these as a package to the consent agenda for January 2nd.
I second that.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Moulton and seconded by Councilor Labarge to refer these to the consent agenda of our next meeting. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Dubs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
And Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously and will be on the consent agenda of our January 2nd meeting.
Brief recess, please.
Absolutely. We will do a recess. Come back at 8:12. Okay, welcome back to the Northampton City Council. Next on our agenda is a zoning ordinance. It is 24.161, an ordinance to amend multiple sections of the zoning ordinance to remove site plan review process for two-family units. This is in second reading. It was referred to the Planning Board and the Legislative Matters, and there was a positive recommendation from both bodies, although Legislative Matters recommended that language related to principal structure be clarified. And do we have Planning Director Mish with us?
Yes.
Welcome, Director Mish. Would you like to speak to this item?
Certainly. So at first, when this was introduced, we went over it, I think, in detail, and then, of course, at Legislative Matters, there was some discussion, and I think there was a question. So I'd be happy to answer any further questions. I mean, this is second reading, so whatever your desire is, if you want me to go through it again, I'd be happy to, but I think most of the councilors have heard. I think the one question that came up at the public hearing, of course, was about in the URB district and the URC district, the discussion about whether this applies to a principal, what the term principal structure means. And so I think because it's the addition of a principal structure, and in that context, it really means an additional residential unit, because we no longer consider second or third units on our property to be accessory to a principal, but they're all just sort of considered equally weighted. And so that's the existing language in the ordinance, and so there wasn't a proposal to change that. But certainly, if there's enough concern about misunderstanding, that could certainly be amended at this time.
Thank you. Questions? Okay. Well, I think this is a great proposal. It's going to make it that much easier for people who are building second units on their property to go through the process without having to pay for the advertisement, without having to go through the public hearing. And these are projects, I think it was stated, was there ever one not approved at Planning Board? If so, there was hardly any. So and that you can already add a second unit if it's attached to an existing structure. This just makes it possible without going through the site plan process. This just makes it possible to do that with a detached structure, and that with our form-based code for two families, we have a lot of the design decisions and the design criteria are defined, which helps with making it an easier process that doesn't need to go through review of the whole planning board. Councilor Labarge.
Yeah, Carolyn, I remember with Wayne Biden, our building inspector, Tony Patillo, and I, we designed the first accessory apartments.
Could you turn your mic on?
Thank you. Could you hear me before? Okay, thank you. But anyways, and I remember we worked on that tirelessly to make that happen with adding the accessories to the house. And they did that also on Autumn Drive, on my ward, and even off of Ryan Road, and it was successful. And I see now that even more and more people now are doing that, adding on an accessory, if not a single-family home in back. I have that happening right now in Ward 6. I'm for this, 100%.
Councilor Elkins.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point, but I'm also, as is always the case, I'm always very supportive of these kinds of, continuing evolution of our zoning code, and the number of times on planning board where we had to remind people, if this were a single-family home, you don't have to ask for any of this. We don't have to spend this time. So I'm very much in support of removing barriers to make more denser housing. So I'm very excited to move this along.
Thanks. Anyone else like to speak? I would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Clemmer. Seeing no further discussion, roll call please on approval of 24.161.
Councilor Maori,
Yeah.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs,
Yes.
Councilor Elkins,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
and Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Director Mish. All right, the last item on our agenda is a discussion of possible rule change to give the presiding officer discretion to convert a city council meeting to all remote in the event of illness in the community or on the council. So Councilor Maori and I were, talking about this, and just some background. The decision to have hybrid meetings, except in the summer, for our regular meetings was a policy that was decided on by a vote of the council at our organizational meeting. So the presiding officer doesn't currently have any discretion to change that. And if thinking about, at times there is illness in members of the council, and the community. And in terms of the community, I would want to listen to the advice of our public health department. For the council, one complicating factor is that while any council member can participate remotely, the president or the vice president, or whoever's next in the line of succession, has to preside if they are present, and that's per our charter. So they can preside remotely, but that could be difficult if most members are in person, because it could be hard to know, who's raising their hand. So, at times, we thought we might have a situation where both the president and the vice president would have to participate remotely. So I'm interested in hearing the council's thought on what, if any, flexibility should be offered to the president or the vice president in determining a remote or an all-remote meeting, and what circumstances would it be appropriate to make that call, if otherwise, we have to wait for another meeting in order to and actually vote at a meeting. So just, we weren't at all ready to propose any kind of rule change, so we just put the discussion on the agenda. And Councilor Maori, did you want to speak further to this?
Right, just to add, even if we did consult, and we would, with the commissioner, in terms of the larger, unless we have this rule in place, we have to have a hybrid meeting. And we run into the same problem. So, and I keep thinking about, is there a situation with a snowstorm? Of course, it would have to be, we'd have to know about it, severity 48 hours ahead of time. And should we add the word health and safety for any reason? But beyond that, I personally think this is a good idea. We'd like to have flexibility just around, around health issues. I think hybrid is great. I think it's ideal. And I also think there's times where not much would be lost and a lot would be gained to have the flexibility of being all remote.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes. This is very hard for me, because right now, what I'm hearing from you, Council President, is that you're in a predicament where you cannot say, well, we're going to go all Zooming. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Right, the council president doesn't have the authority to change to an all remote.
All right, but now, maybe you could explain to me. Here we had a problem one night at city council, and you know what I'm talking about with the protesting and so forth, and the screaming and everything going on here. We finally adjourned, which had to be done. But we went Zooming on the next meeting, and you attended that.
Right, so a special
So you made
meeting,
that decision, right?
a special meeting, the
Right,
council
a
president
special
gets to
meeting.
decide whether it's hybrid or remote. We're talking only about regular meetings here. And unlike that situation where we now have a process where we can recess and then go to Zoom, this would be about making a decision 48 hours ahead as to whether we should be all remote or continue with the hybrid option.
I think continue with the hybrid option.
So, sorry, just to be clear, you don't think the council president should have the authority to change a hybrid meeting to an all remote?
Yes,
for
you
any
could.
circumstances?
Yes, I agree with that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Under
But
what?
what I'm saying, I like both ways, but for you, you have to make a decision. So that would be very difficult if we are doing just regular all counselors coming in, or doing also the Zooming at the same time, making that decision. You can't. So yes, I would like to see that you do have
And under
that
what?
option.
Sorry, under what circumstances? Like what should
Like
be the
bad weather.
criteria?
Bad weather, health, family, children sick, our family, our husbands, our wives, whatever.
Counselor Elkins.
I don't have any issue with this. I think it's fine to give some discretion. I worry a little bit about moving things all remote based on. So if we can get a quorum hybrid, and there is I feel like one of the things about Zoom and the hybrid is that there's pressure on us to, I'm looking at Councilor Maori, he's clearly not feeling well tonight, and we ought to be able to, it's okay to miss a meeting because you're sick, and we do have a procedure in place for who would preside if we need to bump down the succession. So it strikes me as a little bit dicey to do it based on, I think it's a little bit tough for it to go entirely remote because the council president and the vice president both maybe happen to be sick. Both because I want to give people permission to miss meeting and not even come hybrid, Zoom if they're not feeling up to it, and that's reasonable. And also because we have provisions in place for, what to do as long as we have a quorum. So I don't, that's not me saying I have any particular, I certainly think there should be some discretion. I kind of wonder if it might not just come out more for weather, and that there's, things that 2 days in advance and make sense. But there are things that we just would not even consider sitting through, given, if personal circumstances didn't allow it before Zoom, and now we do. And this job's pretty hard already.
Right, that's why I say he should be able to.
Councilor Labarge?
It's on.
It's on. You're on. Oh, you're done? Okay.
I'm going to say what I'm going to say again. I think that as our president of the city council, you should be able to have the say-so of what we're going to do. And I'm telling you what I'm going to do, no matter what. If it's bad weather, I will not travel on Route 66, period. Secondly, my husband comes first, medically. And if I'm sick, just like I didn't feel good 2 weeks ago, I knew it was not healthy for me to be in here. And thank goodness my doctor said and had to put me on medication. So right now there is an uptick in Northampton, a really bad one in Boston. So these are decisions that I take very, very serious here, of coming into city council and somebody's coughing and coughing and coughing. I don't think that's healthy either.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes, I think Councilor Labarge has just underscored the importance of noting that we all have our individual discretion about whether we're going to attend in person and for health or safety reasons, and that will remain in place. In terms of the discretion of the president, I would agree with what's been said about for health and or safety reasons, so that if the city has shut down, for example, because of weather, I would expect that our meeting would not be here, it would be remote, and that you would make that decision. If the health commissioner has declared that there's a serious increase in whatever illness it happens to be, that would, and she would advise against having a public meeting with a lot of people in the same room, then I would trust that you would make that decision then to move it remote. I concur with Councilor Elkins. I'm less convinced about the need to do it simply because of the absence of the president and vice president, because there is the third presiding officer then would be, I believe, goes from finance to legislative matters. But so there is a plan in place. So I would make it for health and safety reasons to give the council president the discretion.
I do too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Maori?
Right, I was just going to say, it was more, it's really more about being, for example, me being sick, that there's actually an uptick in COVID right now. And barring, I believe, the Board of Health has some power, I think they can shut down all meetings eventually, but barring them issuing some sort of directive, if we see, if we get advice to be remote, we still cannot unless we have this rule in place. That's the problem.
Yep.
So it's not, to me, it's not about like who's sick on council, but it's about having the latitude to say, there's an uptick. It's really not worth it, because we're also inviting the public into an in-person location. So we're taking responsibility for that. So that's it. But I do agree with Councilor Elkins, and thank you, because I went through that thought process. There is a thing where you can participate remotely, and we really need to be able to say, if I had gotten any worse tonight, I would have just said I have to leave, and we all need to feel like we can do that. So I definitely hear that. But without any rule in place, we cannot make calls based on what's going on with COVID rates or anything. Or if there's like a snowstorm or something like that. Snowstorms are trickier. We'd have to know about them 48 hours ahead, because we're talking about that posting time, and we're talking about a one-time decision for a meeting, not moving forward. But to me, if you keep it about health and safety, I think it would it could be give us some nimbleness around dealing with COVID and other epidemics.
Before I go back to Councilor Elkins, is there anyone else who hasn't spoken who wants to weigh in? One of our council rules. Everyone gets a chance. Okay, Councilor Elkins.
I was just going to say, it sounds like we've got pretty good consensus here, so I look forward to
yeah, I can just speak
what we can adopt
to your, as Councilor Maori and I were going through the possibilities, we were realizing, okay, I mean, there are circumstances where you don't have enough votes to pass a financial order, especially because that requires 6 votes, or you're very close to something not passing because some folks are absent. But one of the things that we could do is come in just for those votes, sign on just for those votes, and
Why would you
cast
have to
that vote. and then take a break for the rest of the night. So.
Why would you have to do that? I
Because
don't
there might be a
understand
vote
what you're
that
saying
wouldn't-
here.
There might be a vote that wouldn't pass because, for financial orders, you need 6 votes.
Right.
And if you're down a president, a vice president, you're down to 7 people.
Yeah.
So
But what's happened with the other counselors? Are they doing Zooming while you're in here? Is that what you're talking about?
No,
Oh.
they're still, we have a regular hybrid meeting, talking about with the criteria for when to go to remote. And I think the consensus that we've heard is not because individual counselors are sick, more the community and for the safety of travel. So
And
I was just
have-
speaking to how it
I have talked with State Rep Lindsay Sabadosa and also a couple of other people from the State House. And right now, they are looking to try to get where people want to Zoom, they can do it. They want to make it permanently.
Right.
Permanently.
Because this expires on I think
end
it's
of
March 31st, 2025.
And they agree with us.
Yeah. So that's a separate issue about
No,
will we
but
be
I'm
able
just
to do all Zoom meetings.
I don't
in the
think
future
Zoom's
at all.
going anywhere.
Okay, any other input?
Just pretty much what others have said, that, if there's a big surge in numbers for COVID or whatever else is coming down the pike, I would not want to be here with a room full of people either. And, snowstorms, as we see with the school closures and all, it's hard to predict sometimes if they predict a big snowstorm, if it's going to happen in the 48 hours makes it a little more challenging. But, I think it would be good to have flexibility for those reasons, but not if you or Councilor Maori or couldn't be here, because we do have people that can fill in.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we will, Councilor Maori and I will consider a possible rule change, and that is the last thing on our agenda, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Perry to adjourn. Roll call on adjournment, please.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
And Counselor Maori.
Okay, feel better, Councilor Maori.
Yeah, I feel better.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
What I